So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. iPhone XS Max, 1 year later. You notice in the title I said next. Now, why am I saying next for the iPhone XS Max? And that's because we're already on to the next thing in the iPhone 11 Pro, and I will be saying goodbye to this phone as my main user. I will still be testing this phone out and running it through the iOS paces as we go along into the future for people who still want to check out a XS Max. But for me, I'm going to be upgrading to the 11 Pro Max, but I want to explain to you my year later experience and how I feel about what Apple has done and where the XS Max stands, and as a user of this phone, what I've experienced. Okay, guys, so let's talk about the price. Now, if we go to Apple's website, you can see that we are seeing the 11 Pro, obviously. It goes on pre-order tomorrow at 5 a.m. Pacific time. The XS Max is gone. What happened to the XS Max? Well, here's what happened to the XS Max. Because the XS Max is the highest cost of manufacturing, and it was already being outsold by the XR, of course, Apple's going to keep the XR around because it's the best seller of last year. It makes no sense, no business sense to keep the XS Max in the line. It would probably cost them more than they would gain from this device. So what's going to happen is you're going to see the XS Max at probably, refurbished sections. You'll also see it at carriers trying to get rid of old stocks, and maybe retailers, maybe even prepaid carriers will pick this one up later on. But for me, I paid like $1,200 for this phone less than a year ago. Like in 7 days, it'll be a year or something like that. So yes, around $1,200 for this XS Max is the 256 gigabyte edition. So in terms of the body and design, I still appreciate how premium the XS Max feels. I mean, it has stainless steel here around the edges, and in this gold color, it is really still a beautiful phone. Now, the iPhone 11 Pro Max, I think, is even more beautiful when it comes to the back being a matte glass. I don't know if I think the camera looks better. I'll have to see when I compare those side by side. But the stainless steel here, the body, pretty weighty. Over my year using it, I always felt like this phone was pretty heavy. A lot of people like that, but the Galaxy Note 10 Plus comes out and it has a bigger screen and it's lighter than this phone. And by the way, the 11 Pro Max is also going to get weightier over the iPhone XS Max. So if you don't like, heavy phones, you might want to steer clear of the 11 Pro Max. Over my time using it, over the year using it, honestly, I got to say, I like it. I like the feel of the XS Max. I actually think it's probably up there in the top 2 best feeling smartphones money could buy. Before the 11 Pro Max came out, now it's still in the top 5. So if you're looking for, a secondhand one, the XS Max is still going to feel every bit as luxurious and premium as the newer device. Besides the fact that the new one has a matte glass back, this one's going to be a little bit more greasy, a little bit more slippery, because it is just, it gets really fingerprinty as well on the back here. So when it comes to the display, I still love the display on the XS Max for how bright it gets. I do like True Tone here. It definitely does help when you're in changing lighting and you want to have an easy experience on the eyes. And also the dark mode that comes here in iOS 13 makes this even better here. I still don't appreciate the notch there. I just don't like having a notch on my phone. I am really waiting to see that go away. So you still have that on any of the newer iPhones anyway. So it's going to be here for the XS Max. All text looks sharp. This screen, really, there's nothing really that impressive to me about the Super Retina XDR display if you already had a XS Max. Yes, that display is going to be probably slightly more accurate and definitely brighter, but I don't see it being that much better than the XS Max, as this one was already at the top of the game. So 1 year later, if you're still interested in a XS Max, rest assured you're gonna get a fantastic display. And in terms of the size of the display, it's always felt very large, a very big display. And I think Apple's okay by not increasing the size. It's already plenty large and maybe too large for a lot of people. It's kind of hard to reach things, but you do have reachability here. And I always like 3D touch. The actual 3D touch here for this iPhone really feels very smooth by comparison to the haptic feedback on the XR. So what about iOS here on the XS Max? I'm on 13.1. I'm actually on the latest beta of 13.1. And I gotta say that they greatly improved the software here, refined it over iOS 12, especially with being able to have the dark mode like I talked about earlier, as well as other improvements across the board like swipe texting, getting the volume HUD off to the left. Also, the silent switch has a nice little indicator up there. I mean, everything just looks more refined than ever before. You can quick press on, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and get right into your settings. A lot of things that you were like annoyed about in the past with the iPhone comes to iOS 13 for the iPhone XS Max. Overall, I gotta say, I don't wanna go on and on about iOS. It's still silky smooth, and it's gonna be, if you get a XS Max, for years to come. And in iOS 13, it got even smoother than before. So thumbs up for the software. One thing I still don't like is that I cannot rotate the XS Max. In addition to that, I don't like that there's not a little bit more customization when it comes to where I can place my icons on the screen. We'll see where we go in the future with that, but it doesn't seem like Apple is going to change their mind anytime soon. So one thing you don't have to feel too bad about is that Apple didn't really increase the storage sizes for this year's phone. So if you get a XS Max or you had one, you have to feel like, oh, they got a terabyte or whatever. And after a year using it, I didn't use that much storage, and that's because I didn't really take a lot of video that I thought I was going to with the XS Max. And that's mostly because I was using my main camera more, and I didn't find this phone quite good enough to replace that camera. I think the 11 Pro Max might be that phone, so I'll probably go with 256 gigs again, even though I didn't even use close to the amount of storage that this phone does have. So 1 year later with the camera, and here's the area where it's gonna be tough to still recommend getting a XS Max, and that's because the 11 is gonna be cheaper, and it gives you a wide angle, which is arguably more beneficial than a telephoto on here, depending on what you do. But some people like to zoom more than they care about a wide angle shot, but that's very little amount of people. That's going to be very niche. For me, I found the pictures to be very natural and a little bit more contrasty than before. Overall, I got to say that I found this camera to be very enjoyable to use on the day-to-day. I think it was outdone in some respects by the Pixel, but in some areas, this phone actually looked better than the Pixel. And I like the amount of recording options that were available for this phone. We can record up to 4K 60, but where this one really gets upgraded with the new phone, and I'm super excited for this, is the front-facing camera up here for the XS Max is going to be upgraded to a 12 megapixel on the 11 Pro Max, as well as the iPhone 11, and can do 4K 60 frames per second and slow motion video on the front of that device. On the whole, 1 year later, the camera on this phone is still phenomenal. And I gotta say that I don't care if the XS Max gets, not talked about no more. Nobody really cares about anymore. This camera is still gonna be plenty enough for most people. Not everybody takes enough photos to need a wide angle camera. So talking about the audio for the XS Max, it comes out the top and out the bottom. And 1 year later, I gotta say it's been thumbs up. Really good bass, really rich sound. And honestly, when Apple was talking about the spatial audio for the 11 Pro Max, again, this is a feature that I'm not super stoked about because the audio was really already amazing on this phone. So after 1 year with the iPhone XS Max, my battery health is still surprisingly at 100% capacity. Now, I've used this phone quite a bit. There's no SIM in here for the video, but I've used this phone a lot, and I'm really impressed that the battery is still up there. Like I said before, I think these newer iPhones are getting better at holding on to their capacity, and it's going to get even better here in iOS 13 as we do have this optimized battery charging. Now, it's exciting to see 5 more hours on the 11 Pro Max. So this was the best battery life for the premium iPhone, not for the entire line. That was the XR last year. But the iPhone XS Max getting upgraded to 5 hours more in the 11 Pro Max, that's definitely exciting to see. But still, I think if you get a XS Max, you're still getting through a day. So, it's not going to be a big deal. But the lack of fast charging was always not that fun for me with the iPhone XS Max. Now, phone call quality, again, not that fun. I haven't been having great reception for this phone my entire year using it, and I really hope the XS Max's upgrade to the 11 Pro Max improves upon this. But when I did have reception, the phone did sound very good. It's just when I do have, issues with reception, people say they can't hear me because I look at the bars and it's at 1 bar. So I've had an issue with that a little bit for the XS Max over my year using it. So after 1 year with the iPhone XS Max, I can still say this is still at the top of the game when it comes to smartphones. However, I'm really shocked that Apple was able to make a phone that's equally more compelling than the XS Max and the 11 Pro Max. I just thought that this phone was already everything you could get out of a phone, but no, we have a triple camera now on the 11 Pro Max. We have a bigger battery life. We have a matte glass back that should resist more fingerprints and also maybe be a little bit more grippy. We'll have to see. But overall, I gotta say that this XS Max here, still a phenomenal product. But I mean, this video, I had to say next because it's just next. Like, we're on to the next thing already. And I think that the fact that the XS Max was so premium, the price was like $1,500. You know, it's kind of sad that the users who had this already have their phone discontinued and they're probably going to lose half its value already. But we're on to the next thing. This is progression. This is the way things work in the tech industry. This is the way things move. And many people want to see cheaper smartphone prices, but we're on to the next thing already. But after a year, I gotta say, thumbs up. I think Apple did a good job with this one. Wasn't groundbreaking, wasn't revolutionary, but it was a very luxurious premium experience. And I expect no different from the 11 Pro Max. So stick around for our coverage on the 11 Pro Max. And if you got a XS Max, you're trading it in for that $600 trade-in, let us know. If you're keeping it, you're going until 2020, you're waiting until they remove that notch. Let us know your thoughts down below. Stick around for more content like this. We will have the 11 Pro Max on the channel as well as the iPhone 11, so stay tuned for that. And I'll catch you all in the next episode. Thank you very much for watching. Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Be sure to be well, and peace.